Broadcasting around the world on the World Wide Web. This is
Selma HD Radio,
your number one internet radio station.
Good evening, and apologies for starting slightly late. We were sorting out a technical issue here, and I hope we are now sorted and good to go. So without any waste of time, let me just welcome all of you who are joining us and appreciate you joining us. And apologies that the camera is not as clear. We will do better. Let's just open with prayer and start. Father, we thank you, we honor you, we appreciate this moment that you have given us. Help us, Lord, even as we unpack this topic today, to be enlightened, to take everything as it comes, and where we need to correct, Father, to go back and correct and learn so that we may build better families and have better children. Mudumaka, we thank you, we honor you. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Again, let me say thank you, Stembiso, for joining us. You've been away for some time now, and we are glad that when we called on you, you were able to come. Today's topic is a very sensitive one for many reasons. And we are having this topic today on single fatherhood, just at the backdrop of having celebrated Father's Day on Sunday, and seeing on social media the many comments that have been made, positive and negative comments that have been made. And, I also went and dug a bit into different studies that are out there. And let me start by contextualizing what the current situation is around single fatherhood, right? So these statistics, I will say the source later. I just didn't copy the source, but I'll go back and look for where I found these numbers. So it says only about 35.6% of children in South Africa live with their biological fathers in the same household. And this is as of 2023, according to the State of South Africa's Fathers Report, right? And this report was published in 2024. So according to this report, only 35.6% of children in South Africa live with their biological fathers in the same household, right? And then it says, in contrast to that, 40.3% of children, remember the first number is 35, so round it up to 36% of children. And then this one says 40% of children live with their non-biological fathers. The term used to describe the non-biological fathers is called social fathers. This could be a stepfather, a grandfather, an uncle, an older brother, or their mother's boyfriends or partners. So 40% of children live with these people. And then it says it means approximately 76% of children live with an adult male, leaving 24% in household without any adult man. Then it goes further to unpack what single fatherhood household means. It says biological father only households are rare, so it's under 5% of children live in a household headed solely by their biological father. And then in every province, that figure remains below 4%. So across the whole of South Africa, less than 4% or up to 5% of children live in households headed solely by their biological fathers. And then another survey found that 3.7, so rounded to 4% or 3.8% of children live only with their father, compared to 44% who live only with their mothers. So 4% live in single fatherhood household, and then 44% live in single motherhood household. And what is the impact on children in these numbers that I've counted? The impact is that father absence is linked to lower educational attainment, economic difficulties, poorer mental health, and research has also shown that, the benefits that children derive from their social fathers, the fathers who step in, or mentorship programs, boost their academic performance, their emotional resilience, and social integration. So basically what this report shows us is that we are sitting with a huge problem in South Africa. And we need to, one, make a call for children, or the best interest of the children, to be put first, because we know that many of these single parenthood households, whether it's single motherhood, single fatherhood household, come as a result of separation. It's rarely a death that separates. It's relationships ending in divorce, relationships where children are born out of wedlock, and all these other socially constructed homes. So I know that you run an organization, and it's the Single Fatherhood Network, where you solely dedicate your efforts to encouraging fathers, to raise their children, even if they have to do it solely by themselves. This is me now ushering you in to just reflect on these numbers that are very shocking, but also telling a very hurtful and painful story for the children of this country. Greet
Yeah.
as you come in and reflect.
Thank you, Fina. Yeah, the statistics you've just shared it's sobering, and I've got more stats that are worrisome, and I think it just shows that intentional parenting is not an option now. And I often talk about deliberate and intentional fatherhood, because these numbers are worrying us as the network. I think also what you said about the scourge of separations, what also is happening in the modern society is that a lot more people, both male and female, are choosing to have kids outside marriage. It's just a choice, and then they end up raising those
Yeah,
kids.
let me just jump in there, Stembiso. We can't hear
Sure.
you because I think your network, I'm not sure
Oh,
if you are able to have better connection, because it's breaking. So we are not able
is it?
to hear your full sentences. We're just getting bits and pieces, which is unfortunate, because you also mentioned that you have other stats on top of these ones, and we wouldn't want to miss those numbers. So let's try again, and hopefully this time you are able to be audible.
Yeah, it looks like my network is fine. I've just double checked. I think maybe it could be on your side, but can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was saying that sometimes the numbers that you're sharing are also caused by the choices that couples just make, that they want to raise kids themselves outside of a marriage setup and outside of the wedlock. So and then they end up raising kids themselves. I spoke at a different conference 2 weeks ago where there was a father and son round table, and I said, only men can raise men. So, and again, so it just means that sometimes single parents think that just because financially I can afford to raise my child and he or she does not lack the basics like roof over their heads, clothes on their back, education, those kinds of things. They forget that both parents have a role to play in the upbringing of a child. So when you talk about 44% of kids raised in a single parenthood setup, that's worrying. So, and again, we just need to think about how can we normalize co-parenting, especially in these days where so many kids are raised by parents with whom they don't live in the same household. And there's so many books written about it, but I don't think there's one possible answer. And I just think that parents that are co-parenting have to be intentional about how they use their resources, knowledge, and skills in the best interest of the kids that they raise. Because to change these statistics, we really have to do something. I think I said to you the other day that if we can fix the structure of a home, we can fix a lot of societal problems we see today. But that has to be an intentional thing, a deliberate thing from families. And it has to be a discussion between two parents that are raising a child and they are no longer together romantically or emotionally. Because at the end of the day, the kids didn't choose to be here. So there's a lot of work in the single dads network that we are doing to coach single dads that provision and sending gifts and sending kids to best schools is not parenting. And I think that emotional participation in a relationship with the child is something that we need to train ourselves and normalize and be intentional about how we go about being present in a child's life.
Yeah, I normally don't speak about my personal experience when it comes to the journey of being a single parent, right? But I think
Sure.
it's relevant because I want us to address what, like we were saying, if we have to turn the stats around, there needs to be intentionality between two parties who share this child to focus on what is best for the child and not look at themselves. And I know that, many people share either a similar experience, and it's both sides, by the way. It's not just women.
Yes,
It's also men
of course.
who
Of course.
are also, going through rejection when they try to reach out, to want to raise their children. They are either
Yes.
rejected by the extended family, the grandparents, all these shawuling things that people now use as a reason for not wanting to give the men access to the children. But in my story, Stembiso, we did everything right? To say,
Sure.
as much as you and I are no longer together as a couple, but for the best interest of the children, I'll keep you informed. I'll invite you to every school meeting. I'll invite you to every birthday celebration. I'll extend whatever that is needed so that these children don't feel that gap. And that was not reciprocated. You will send the invite to the meeting, no one pitches. You send an invite to the birthday celebration, no one pitches. You make a phone call to just say, hey, remember there are these two kids, just give them a ring and say hi, because it will mean so much to them. And that is not done, And so you get to a point where you give up. You say, okay, I've tried
Yes.
for 3 years, I've tried for 4 years, it's not working. When the person is ready, they will come and do these things because at least they know where their children are. What do you think makes men do that? Because we need to get to the bottom of, we will talk about when it's women now pushing men away. But when you've created an environment that says, as much as you are no longer with me, but I will not block your relationship with your children. Let's create an environment for that relationship to thrive, even if ours is not thriving. Even if you have somebody else now involve them, let them be part of this journey with you, so that the children can still have a father. What do you think makes men then not? Because there's at least in my circle, a lot of women share the same experience as me.
Yeah, I always say, yeah, sometimes blocking access is we blame baby mothers or women, but it's sometimes just men walk away from the child. I think from my own experience is that when there's a fallout of a romantic relationship with the mother, and in most cases, men have to go through the mother to access the child. And then when they are tired of talking to the mother about the child, and then they end up giving up on the child as well. And I preach this all the time when I speak at conferences about fatherhood. And I say that sometimes you do not necessarily have to go through your former girlfriend or wife. When a child is big enough to be able to be accessible through a phone or through another relative, you should strive to create that connection. Because most men are saying, every time I speak to the mother, she will lecture me for half an hour about the issues between the two of us, and then eventually that discourages men to access the child. But some choose just to walk away because they believe that the mother has got the custody, she is a primary caregiver, and therefore, and he sends the money. Sometimes then the mother must take care of everything, and they think that parenting is about providing the resources. And again, we are saying that's not parenting. Just
Yeah.
because you're sending maintenance money and you're sending your child to the best school, that's not being a good father. And again, it's a mindset that we need to uh, dispel. We need to kill the stereotype. We need to break that cycle.
I agree. We are celebrating those fathers who, are there, and they push against all odds, even when they have to go through a lot of noise, the lecturing and, the being accused and all the other things, but they still say,
Yes.
for the sake of my child, I will not back up, right? Do you think men know that the law of this country supports their participation in their children's lives against all odds? Finances are not a determination of that participation. Do you think men know this? If they don't, how do we get this message to them so that they know that I might be unemployed, but that does not say I can't have access to my child? So that we don't have excuses where, the reason I'm not there is because I'm unemployed. The mother is the one providing, the mother is the one with the resources. Is this knowledge there? Are we doing enough to create awareness around that?
I don't think we're doing enough. Some do know, some don't. And I found that the younger fathers, millennial fathers, do not want to read the Children's Act, and they don't care too much about reading what the legislation says. Some do, but I think it's just a self-esteem thing. When you do not have a job as a man, you feel that you are not fit to parent that child. Most men, especially in the black culture, feel that because I cannot provide financially for this person, I do not qualify to be present in their lives. Until such time I can provide financially, then I'll make myself available. It's very crazy because presence is bigger than just financial provision. I always say presence is good provision, but provision is not present. Just because you are there for your child and you've got that emotional connection, it weighs more weight than you just sending cash to that child, because that emotional connection and bonding creates legacy. it creates a relationship long term than just a transactional kind of approach. So what we keep saying is that even if you don't have a job, even when you lose a job, continue building the relationship with the child and make them understand that it's a temporary setback. You're going to be on your feet again, but the relationship does not have to suffer because of those temporary conditions. But most
Yeah.
men, as I said earlier, they think that until I'm on my feet again financially, I do not qualify to be in that child's life, which is
Yeah.
unreasonable.
You gave a beautiful nugget there. You were saying presence is a good provision, but what? I wanted to write it so that I use
Yes,
it as
yeah.
well next time.
Presence, yeah, presence is a good provision for the child, but provision is not presence.
Provision is not presence, which is powerful, because I can imagine, because we don't know, Kore, how long are we going to live. Only God
Yes,
knows what tomorrow
yes,
holds, right? So
yes.
if I'm unemployed for 5 years and I stay away for 5 years because I feel that I'm not worthy to be
Mm,
present in my
mm,
child's life, and in the fourth year, fifth year, you pass on, you leave a child who's hurt, rejected, who feels, and we see it. I mean, when you look at the many reality shows on TV, Abo Kumbule Kaya, you see the
yes,
anger that children
yes,
carry and harbor.
mm,
There's one that
yeah,
was circulating recently, where this girl child was talking to her father with so much disrespect, saying, you knew where I was and you didn't even come to look for me. Where were
yeah,
you all this time? And I know circumstances differ. Even if you take it each case by case, I'm looking at the law as with a provision it has to say, if the mother is refusing, come to the courts, come state your case. We will hear the case as the law, and we will decide what is in the best interest of the child. And for me, this is
absolutely.
my call to action today, to say anyone who really is intentional about being in the lives of their children, whether you have money, whether the woman you have a child with is a millionaire and you are a mere taxi driver, whatever it is, that is not reason for you not to be in that child's life. The only thing that will make the courts not even hear you is if you are an abuser and it's proven
Yes,
that you are
mm,
an abuser, because the court cannot risk, putting a child in such an environment. But I
of
don't see
course.
many men fighting that battle where they say, look, the law favors me. We talk about how the law favors women most of the time, but here's a law
Mm,
that favors men. And I
yes,
would want to see men utilizing that law for the sake of their children, not to just start a fight with the woman. It's not a
mm,
revenge plot. It's to say,
right.
forget the two of you, but think about the person that the two of you created.
Yeah. For unfortunately, for most men, it's a fight that they're not willing to fight. So they just say, as long as I'm providing, that child will be okay. I spoke to a 14-year-old from Mozambique that came to Johannesburg. He's a boy, so he came to Johannesburg looking for his father. He ended up in the streets because he couldn't find his father. So, especially for a boy child, he gets to a point where the father lives in a shack, doesn't have a job, or live in the streets, but he wants to meet him. Because he's looking for that identity in a father. So a boy child at some point will make an effort to look for his father, especially when he knows that his father has not passed. So when I spoke to that young man, he said he had a conversation with his mother back in Mozambique, and his mother said, "Listen, if you want to go see your father, I know he's in Johannesburg somewhere. Go look for him." And then he took, I don't know, bus or train. I can't remember what he told me, but he was determined to go find him. And unfortunately, he ended up in the kids' haven in Benoni. It's a kids' shelter, as you know. And that his story, there's so many stories like that. So when we speak about the boy child, their interests and their eagerness and determination to look for a father is stronger than that of a girl child. So I said earlier, only a man can raise a man, and they know that I'm looking for identity, yes, but there are some values and discipline and teachings that I'm looking for from my dad. I need to find a way to be with him. So if a father is turning away, you spoke earlier about social fathers. As most of the single moms that come to my show, they will say, "Listen, what do I do? The father is on the run. He's hot and cold. He comes sometimes he doesn't come. What do I do to protect myself and my kids? I cut ties." So I say, well, you can cut ties, but find a social father or a spiritual father to this child, because he will need one or she will need one. So even if you have tried everything as a single mom to get the attention of the biological dad, there are fathers or men in society that are willing to play that role in your child's life, and don't give up on that. But most moms will say, "Listen, this child doesn't lack financially, and I'm gonna play both roles," and that is not possible.
Yeah.
And if you're raising a boy child as a single mom, it's going to get to a point where he resents you because you did not help him find a social father within community, either as a colleague from church, from community, or from friends, someone you can trust.
Yeah. And before we move, I just want to stop here, and because there's a comment that is put there, it will also enrich our conversation. Stan Monso is saying, "Greetings to the elders. I have observed on my side that some human beings are simply not prepared or willing to be parents. They just not connecting physically or emotionally with their children. I feel some people should go through a 6-month pre-parental course and get a parental certificate before becoming parents. So perhaps an idea of parental institutions across the country in the near future." So Stan is saying, look, I'm observing, and what I see, and I think he's talking both sides, because he's just saying parents, not specifically men or women. But his observation is that we sort of need an institution where we do pre-parenting courses. So before you become a parent, like the way we go to school to qualify, before you become a doctor, a nurse, a teacher, you go and you are certified to say this one qualifies. Would that work? Do you think it's something to be explored?
Yeah, we discuss this all the time on our podcast. Yeah, there are no schools for parenting. A lot of people think that it's a natural thing. You're gonna figure it out on the way. You don't have to stress about it. But I tell you, when I talk about intentional parenting, I said to someone yesterday that you must plan your parenting approach and your style just as you plan your career, because it's not going to just happen naturally, and you can't put yourself on autopilot as a parent, because kids evolve, and today's generation have got different needs from previous generations. So when you plan to have a child, you must have a very good idea, because it changes everything and it affects your life. So whether you're a man or a woman, if you're planning to have kids, you must have a very good idea about how you're going to raise those kids with your partner. But unfortunately, most parents, before they're parents, they don't discuss that detail. I'm one of those examples where my first child was born when I was a teenager. I had no clue how it's like to be a parent. So I just shifted the responsibility to my family. And then I realized later on in life that I didn't have a relationship with my kids. So I had to be intentional about building that relationship. I always say it's never too late to be a present parent. But when the penny drops, you must be intentional about it and be consistent in the way you learn about parenting. I don't think there's a parent that can stand in front of a crowd and say, "I've arrived, I know what it takes to be a parent," because
Yeah.
it's an evolving it's an evolving responsibility because you are changing as a parent. The child is also growing and evolving. But you have to find new ways of doing it. Until you die, you're never going to arrive. But
Yeah.
a lot of conversations through platforms like yours, through platforms like mine, we have to coach young people. Like I said last week at a different conference, it's hard to fix a broken man than to groom a young boy. If we can train young men, young boys to be responsible fathers, dads, husbands, we can remove stress about trying to fix them when they are adults. Because at that point, there's so much grooming that you need. Because as you know, there are no schools for parenting. So who's going to really try and fix that old parent that only wants to learn about parenting at that stage? So if you can
Yeah.
start young, go to schools, go to churches, and speak to young girls, young boys. At the point where you want to start a family, have you thought about XYZ? Did you know that only 4% of kids in this country live with both parents in a household, as an example? So did you
Yeah.
know that? So once we educate, because the government is not going to do it for us.
Yeah. And I'm glad you went back to that statistic. I mean, 4%, of a 69 million population. How many are we in South Africa? 69
That's to
million,
say, mm,
thereabout. So you
mm.
can imagine it's not even, it's not even in the millions.
I
And
spoke
that's
about another statistic.
mm,
Oh, yeah, sorry, I wanted to mention that 64% of kids that drop out at high school from grade 10 come from fatherless homes. Think about that.
mm,
And then 84% of the juveniles in jail come from fatherless homes. And then 90% of kids that we see in the streets come from homes without a father. So the figures can't lie, the data can't lie. So it means a home or a structure in a family that has got a father has got so much reaping effect into the way how those kids come out eventually into society. So stats can't lie. So it means
yeah.
where there's a present father, whether they live with the child or not, but where there's a present father, those kids come out different, especially a boy child.
And let's underscore that, because probably someone is listening and thinking, how now I am not with that woman anymore. Are you saying I must go back to the woman, right?
No, no,
For my child to turn out okay. We are
no, no.
saying, even if the child lives in another province, there must be time where you spend time with that child, so that they get to be in the same space and they get to interact with you and get to do things that you also like doing, in the same way. When they are on the other side, they get to see that mommy doesn't like this, daddy doesn't like this, whatever it is, so that they're able to have a balanced view of things, and not just one picture or one-sided kind of a view. And I was curious. I'm like, what does it look like in a single father home? Because when we listen to conversation, men will tell you, yeah, women poison our children against us. They say negative things to our children against us. And I was wondering, what conversations do men have when they are single parents? Because sometimes men are single parents even when the mother is there. You're right,
Yeah,
because maybe the
yeah,
mother opted to move on and start a new family somewhere, and they left you with your child that you had when you were a teenager. Whatever it is that led or that leads to a man now being labeled a single father. I'm curious as to what kind of conversations do they have, especially if the child asks about the mom.
yeah. I wish you could be on our chat group and just be a fly on the wall there, because we do discuss this. I lived with my daughter for many years here in Johannesburg, and her mom died when she was very young. But
Mm,
we also talk about, so if you're raising a girl child as a man, how does it look like? Can you address some of the issues that she raises or she goes through? Same as what I said about social fathers. We need social mothers as well for us, some of dads, where especially where we raise a girl child. I'm fortunate in my family because I'm from a big family. There's a lot of nieces and sisters and cousins. So my girl, I raised two daughters. So my daughters always have access to those people. But other guys that are friends of mine do not have that luxury. So where do they go? They don't have sisters, they don't have a lot of nieces, they don't have a lot of female cousins. And I say to them, same thing that we say to single moms, go find a social mother, a spiritual mother to this daughter. So someone that you can trust, someone that you trust, someone that she can trust. Build that rapport, build the relationship. If there are issues that you don't understand that your daughter is going through, reach out to that person. Instead, because sometimes either the mother has passed or the mother is also on the run. I've got a friend of mine who's raising an 8-year-old daughter, and the mother, as soon as he took custody of the daughter, the mother stopped contributing financially. That's another issue. So mothers, as soon as mothers, because they think they lose custody, as soon as they lose parental care or primary care to the child, they wash their hands. Now the man must be responsible for everything. That breaks the relationship with the child. So this young man is struggling to convince the mother that you are still responsible to contribute financially, and you are still, the child needs access to you as well as a mother. So we are coaching single moms as well that don't wash your hands. If stay is taking the child or whatever reason, because his personal circumstances are better suited to raise her, don't suddenly walk away now that she does not live with you. That's another stigma with single fathers.
Yeah. And I feel like single fathers then are not celebrated enough. We really do talk a lot about the hustles and the struggles of single mothers. They are in the majority, of course. The numbers
Yes.
that we read says it's 44% of them. But we need to encourage the 4% that are
4%.
stepping up, that are doing their part, so that we see more coming into that bracket, and not that bracket reducing, because now there's more tensions, there's more misunderstanding. If anything, this session today must achieve a call to action where next time we look at the numbers, we see the numbers going up, where,
It's shifting. It's actually shifting
right?
slowly.
We want that shift to happen because every child deserves to be raised by two parents, regardless of their romantic relationship, regardless of their financial situation. And we need to break that cycle, because it usually continues. You find that I become a single mom, my daughter becomes a single mom, so the cycle continues, because anything that is not done properly from the foundation becomes a generational legacy. And we want to create legacies of children who are well taken care of by both sides,
Yeah.
and
We're trying to
yeah.
we're trying to break the cycle. I posted a statistic last week that to date in June globally, 363,000 men have committed suicide already in half a year. So you can multiply it by two, that number, you can understand where we're going to be in December. I also posted something yesterday that said millennial dads, millennial fathers are 7 times more present in their kids' life than the previous generation. They are spending 7 to 9 hours a week with their kids compared to 2.5 hours a week in the previous generation. So you can see that younger men have got a very different approach to the emotional participation with their kids compared to Gen Gen X and boomers. And I'm wondering why younger men find it useful to be present in their kids' life. So we need to ask the question, what about the older generation that makes it okay for them to be so distant from their kids? Is it the way we were raised as Gen X's and boomers? Is it because we were familiar with men that were working far away from home in the previous generations and we normalized that situation? Is it because jobs in the past were far away from home and only women would take care of the kids? What is it exactly? So, as Family Dads Network, we are all about breaking those stereotypes, breaking those cycles, and saying, now we live in the suburbs. Now we live closer to where we work, both mother and father. It's not about the apartheid days where people would take trains and only go home once every 6 months. So we are closer to the schools, we are closer to the workplaces. Why then are we still not present in our kids' lives? So we have to remove the excuses that I provide. What do you need from me? There's a young lady that came to my show and said, I would like my husband to come to the Single Dads Unplugged podcast. And I said, why? Because she said, because my husband is present under the roof, but he knows nothing about the kids. And when you challenge him, why don't you come and watch my daughter play hockey? He says, but you are there as a mother. I provide for you. There's roof over your heads. You don't lack. Why do you want me to come and watch her play? So his thinking is that as long as he provides, he's doing a father job. He's doing a
Yeah.
sterling job.
Thank you. And I'm happy that, there are platforms where people can voice, where people can be enlightened. This is the Enlightenment Corner. And we really want to enlighten everyone, to say, look, there are those who are doing something right. Let's learn from them. But let's also go back and find out from the Gen X. We had Tuto at some point unpacking
Yes.
these generations for us, right? The Gen X and the boomers, those are the older ones, the 45-year-olds, the 50-year-olds. And those are the ones that have raised many generations that are still bleeding today because they are still not present and they live longer. The unfortunate thing or fortunate thing now, I think it is the fortunate thing, maybe financially not, but people are living longer than before.
Yes, definitely.
The age of retirement actually must move because people now live beyond 65. They live up to 80, 90 years.
No,
So you
80,
can
85.
imagine you still have that father. You are now a grandfather yourself, but you still have your father not taking part in your life, and you still sit with that wound that is open. So it's hard for you then to connect and heal if that thing is not resolved. And many of it, as you say, Ste, comes from the cultural beliefs as well, where families would still remind you that haula, hawaii, whatever the traditional things.
Yes,
And I
yes.
don't think the millennials care much about those kind of things. I don't know. They must come and tell us, how did they get it right? What is it about them that has seen them stepping up? You see, even with Bobo baby shower things, I see how
Yes.
it's no longer a woman thing. You see these young men also having their own, preparing for the coming of the baby, buying gifts and whatever. It shows that we are really now parenting differently. And those
Yeah.
things that needs to be corrected, we must go back and correct them. What are your thoughts on how we then correct so that we
Yeah, we
move
should
forward in a proper way?
Yeah, we should learn from them. In fact, I'm inviting next week on Wednesday. I'm inviting a 27-year-old son of a friend of mine who also has two kids himself. So and he's present. He's a millennial. He's present in his kids' lives, and I'm going to ask him questions. How much time do you spend with them? What's your relationship like? Where's the mother? because he's not married. He's a single dad, but also he's raised by a single dad. So I met him. I met him at a father and son round table 2 weeks ago, and I thought I said to him, I'd like you to share your thoughts around how you find now, having been raised by a single dad. Now you are a single dad yourself. How is that like for you? And are you intentional about parenting? And what's your experience? And I think we should allow ourselves as Gen Xers and Boomers to learn from the younger generation, and perhaps we can learn one thing or two about intentional parenting, and as opposed to them coping what we had done to them. Of course, it's not ideal that he's a single dad himself, but what I found in his eyes, I could see this passion about parenting even at that age. And I asked myself, what could we learn from him and his experiences?
Wonderful. And I see the silence on the platform. I know when we tackle topics like this that are too close to home, too personal, people sit quietly and listen. So there's no problem there. Listen and really apply, reflect, go back. If you have to listen to this again, to just say, but, where did we go wrong? Because as much as we want, to celebrate the singleness in raising, it's not ideal. It's not even how God designed it, And so that on its own shows you that something that goes out of the pattern that was designed will have challenges. But we've navigated those challenges by finding ways of, existing together and really finding each other, and making sure that we make it work. And a child would need both mother and father anytime, whether you are together or not. Like we said in the beginning, we need to wrap up.
Sure.
And I wanted us to just, give a few nuggets to anyone who's listening. Of course, underscoring the fact that fathers, the law supports you being in your children's lives. If you didn't know, today we are telling you. If you are being denied access to your children because when you are unemployed, because when you married another woman, because when whatever the reasons given are, you have the law on your side. There's no excuse for you not being a present father in your child's life. And stop making those excuses. Even if last week when you tried, you were rejected, I'm challenging you to go back and try again, to get access to your child. If not, use the courts to make sure that that child doesn't miss out. Like I said, we don't know what life holds for us. Don't wait for the future that you have no control over. You are now here in the present. Use the present to really impact your child's life. Stay, any closing remarks from you? You can invite people to your podcast, so that they can listen in to the events where you go and address men. Just let us in on spaces where men who are listening here can come and be empowered.
Thank you. You can find us on all socials except X or except X, Single Dads Network. 3 words, Single Dads Network. Our podcast series is on our YouTube channel. It's also called Single Dads Network. You can subscribe. We are shooting season 6 now. Single Dads Network was started or launched in October 2023. We're just over a year now. So, will be 2 years in October. I'm just saying, come to our platform, listen to what other young men, young fathers are saying, share your story, place comments, go to our Facebook channel, follow us there, and then share your stories as well. I went to Davidton, we met with 53 men. We spent 6 to 9 hours together. It was amazing to see men drop everything, drop football, drop alcohol, just to share their stories. The Single Dads Network is all about going into communities, listening to stories, and sharing that on our platform. I just think by storytelling, it just makes you believe that I'm not alone. There could be someone out there that is going through what I've gone through already, and then we learn from one another. It's not really about bashing other parents. It's all about building a movement where we normalize fatherhood as something that is inherent in us, and we don't have to be apologetic about making sure that we have those emotional bonds. By the way, lastly, Children's Act, Chapter 3, go read it. It's the child that needs access to the parent, not the other way around. Go read it if you're listening and you're watching. It's not the parent that needs access. It's the child that needs access to both parents. They have got that right. It's not the parent's right, it's the child's right. Thanks.
Powerful. And I won't even, and maybe we need to, in one of the sessions, just go through the act, because you and I know about the act. We know what it, the benefits it has, but many people don't. And it's unfortunate that shows like these ones will not trend. They are not usually shared. Only a few people. If we were gossiping here and talking about other things, we would be trending. It's such an unfortunate, reality that we live with, that topics such as these that really empower people, or shows like this would not reach the 1 million mark. But the ones that we are able to reach, we hope that you take this information and you run with it, and at least in your home, you are raising children better than people who have no knowledge and no information, right? And that's the whole purpose of why we spend our evenings sharing this kind of insights with you. It's not that we don't have anything else better to do. Thank you so much for joining us. And next time we will try and have more people, so that we are able to get different insights, even those young men who are single fathers, just to hear from them and their perspective. We would appreciate having them. So it's good night from us on In His Grace and Mercy. We are joining you. You are joining us through Sauma HD Radios, which is www.saumahdradio, and on our Facebook, as well as on our YouTube page. And it's In His Grace and Mercy. You see, I have flu, but I decided no flu formed against me will prosper, because this job is necessary. It needs to be done. Thank you, everyone who joined. Let's just close with prayer and take everything back to God. Father, we thank you. We appreciate, Mudumaga, the enlightenment we received. May those who have ears hear, and may those, Mudumaga, who have heard do as they were told. This knowledge that is shared, may it not just sit in people's heads, but may it be shared and may it be used. We thank you, Lord. We honor you in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you very much, and all the best with the Single Father Network. May it grow from strength to strength.
Awesome. Thank you. Hope you feel better. I'll talk soon.
Yes. Thank you. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.